You believe that being good is enough. You've built your character on restraint, on patience, on refusing to be the kind of person who hurts others to get what they want. And you're proud of that. You should be. But here is what no one tells you. Your goodness, deployed without judgment, without timing, without the capacity to harden when hardening is required, that goodness becomes a weapon pointed at everyone who depends on you. Machiavelli wrote one line that has been misread for 500 years. Most people think it's a license for cruelty. It isn't. It's a warning, a precise, almost surgical warning about what happens when a person of genuine character refuses to learn the one skill they find most uncomfortable. By the end of this video, you will never think about mercy the same way again. Florence, 1513. Machiavelli has been arrested, tortured, and released. He is no longer in power. He retires to a small farm outside the city, and, in the evenings, he changes into formal robes to write. Not out of vanity, out of respect for the dead men he is communing with, Caesar, Livy, the great figures of antiquity. He is trying to distill what actually works, not what sounds noble, what works. And he writes, "A leader must learn how not to be good and to use this knowledge according to necessity." Every generation reads that line and flinches. They hear, become ruthless, abandon morality, lie, cheat, dominate. That is not what he meant. What he meant is harder to accept than cruelty. He meant that goodness, like a blade, must be chosen. It cannot be your only mode. A man who can only be good is not virtuous. He is limited, and limitation, at the wrong moment, is its own form of violence against the people he was supposed to protect. Law 1. Mercy. Without judgment is not a virtue. It is a transfer of suffering. There is a kind of mercy that feels righteous in the moment and destroys everything 6 months later. Cesare Borgia, a man Machiavelli watched with fascination, inherited the region of Romagna in chaos, bandits on the roads, rival lords taxing peasants at sword point, open murder going unpunished. The previous administrators had been lenient, kind even. They hated conflict, and so they looked away, and the cruelty they refused to confront simply moved downward, onto the weak. Borgia sent one ruthless administrator to impose order. The man did it brutally, effectively, and when the work was done, Borgia had him publicly executed for his excesses, a cold, calculated act of statecraft. Machiavelli's point was not that Borgia was good. His point was that Borgia's single act of hard intervention ended suffering that had compounded for years under compassionate inaction. Ask yourself honestly, where in your life are you being lenient with someone or something because confrontation feels cruel, while the actual cost of that leniency is being paid by everyone around you? Law 2. The capacity for hard action is not the same as the habit of it. This is the distinction almost everyone misses. Machiavelli is not telling you to become hard. He is telling you to become capable of hardness, and then to deploy that capability with the precision of a surgeon, not the temperament of a brute. Think of the difference between a doctor who can cut and a man who simply likes cutting. The scalpel is the same. The hand is different. One heals. One destroys. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius commanded the largest military force in the world. He ordered campaigns. He authorized deaths. And he wrote in private about the grief of it, about his wish that human beings could resolve conflict without blood. He was not numb. He was not cruel. He had simply accepted that being emperor meant being capable of decisions that a private man could refuse. The capacity without the habit. That is the discipline. If you can only be soft, you will flinch at the exact moment clarity is required, and that flinch will cost something, or someone, that mattered. Law 3. Gratuitous cruelty. is the sign of a weak mind, not a strong one. Here is where people take the wrong lesson and run with it. They hear the idea of learning how not to be good, and they think the goal is to become someone who acts without feeling, who dominates for dominance's sake, who mistakes aggression for authority. Machiavelli explicitly rejects this. He distinguishes cruelties well used from cruelties badly used. Well-used cruelty is swift, targeted, and ends a problem. Badly used cruelty is ongoing, personal, and performed for the pleasure or insecurity of the person wielding it. A leader who punishes out of fear, who escalates to remind people who is in charge, is not strong. He is advertising weakness. He is saying, I am not confident in my position without constant demonstrations of force. True authority doesn't need repetition. It acts once, clearly when necessary, and then it returns to stillness. Gratuitous cruelty is not a feature of powerful men. It is the behavior of men who are terrified of losing power. And those two things look identical from a distance. Up close, they are entirely opposite. The question to carry: are you acting out of clarity and necessity, or out of fear wearing the costume of strength? Law 4. The leader who cannot disappoint anyone will eventually destroy everyone. This law lives in families, in companies, in friendships, not just in empires. There is a man in every organization who cannot say no. He agrees to every request because refusal feels like abandonment. He absorbs everyone's problems because boundaries feel selfish. He is universally liked. He is also universally walked over. And the organization around him bends toward chaos because the one person who should be holding the line has decided that his own comfort, the comfort of being liked, matters more than the integrity of the structure. Machiavelli calls this the trap of appearing merciful while generating real harm. Seneca saw it differently, but arrived at the same place. A man who cannot tolerate the discomfort of disappointing others has, in effect, made others responsible for his emotional state. That is not generosity. That is dependency dressed up as virtue. The most loving thing a person in authority can do is sometimes the thing that feels the least loving in the moment. To say no, to hold a standard, to refuse to absorb a problem that isn't yours to absorb. Difficulty delivered with clarity and without malice, that is care. Permanent accommodation is not kindness, it is cowardice. Law 5. Timing transforms the same act from violence into medicine. The same action, the same firmness, the same refusal, the same hard decision lands entirely differently depending on when it arrives. Sun Tzu understood this as the foundation of all strategy. Not what you do, but when. The general who fights at the right moment with an average force defeats the general who waits too long with a superior one. Applied to personal life, the conversation you postpone for 6 or 6 months because you don't want conflict does not disappear. It compounds. The relationship damage grows. The resentment calcifies. And when you finally have the confrontation, you are not having a conversation. You are managing an emergency. Contrast that with the same conversation, held early, with precision, before the wound has any time to infect. Machiavelli's model of firmness is inseparable from timing. He does not say act hard always. He says act hard at the necessary moment, which implies you must first develop the judgment to recognize when that moment has arrived. Judgment, not temperament, not habit. Judgment. The man who acts firmly at the wrong time is still a brute. The man who acts firmly at the exact right time is something else entirely, and people feel the difference even if they can't name it. Here is the turn that recontextualizes everything you've just heard. The real subject of this video is not cruelty. It is not even strategy. It is self-honesty. Every single avoidance you've disguised as mercy. Every time you let something continue because confronting it felt cruel. Every time you told yourself you were being patient when you were actually being afraid. Machiavelli's lesson is not permission to become hard. It is a mirror. It asks you to look at your own softness, not to admire it, but to examine it. To ask whether what you're calling virtue is genuinely serving the people and things you're responsible for, or whether it is serving your own need to see yourself as a good person. The capacity for necessary firmness is an act of love, the kind of love that is willing to be misunderstood. That takes more courage than kindness ever will. A good man, a genuinely good man, is not someone who has never been capable of hardness. He is someone who developed that capacity, understood it completely, and chose to govern it with judgment rather than instinct. The world does not need more people who are only soft. It needs people who are soft by choice, who know exactly what they are capable of, who reserve it for the moments that demand it, and who return to stillness without guilt the moment it's done. That is not Machiavelli's warning against goodness. That is his warning for it. Learn what you are capable of, then decide, every single time, who you are going to be. That decision, made consciously, is the whole game.